this footage archive that is more a generic collection of many projects coming together. We've also had more specific or things that went into that were used this archive at a historic moment where they wanted to collect information about an event that just happened, and they wanted to find a way of working with that. So we worked in Turkey, for example, with it's a group called Video Occupy. They collected a lot of material from the Gezi Park protests, and they then asked us, everyone who was there was filming, to give their material, and we organized this in a way to make it available now and organize it accessible beyond just having these things scattered around in this way. So this started as all the material from Gezi Park that they collected and making it, trying to document this event. But one of the things that happened while documenting Gezi Park for them was also that they thought more about the history of struggle in Turkey, and so they also extended this archive now to previous protests. So there's a so far smaller collection of things from the Tekal protests that were in 2009 and 10, which was a protest that went on for 6 months, a strike in Ankara where they occupied many places in Ankara and had demonstrations, and people were living on the street there, protesting the closing of many tobacco factories. So in this case, so I mean the video archive is one way of bringing these different things together, and also then organizing around them in a way. A similar thing is happening with footage from Tahrir Square in Cairo, which will be released hopefully sometime next year, around the Mozarini project, which I cannot show online right now. But so we've not only used this as online tools, but also went into used it for offline, or like within a certain setting, that you take this as not as a website, as something that you have locally, and then work with this material from more like an activist context, but also for film production or for local archives that don't want to be on the internet. But sometimes I also just import larger collections. I mean, it's a way of looking, and once you have this kind of functionality that you can filter and look at the material, sometimes you want to see this for something that is on the internet, but you think, wouldn't it be interesting to see maybe, there's this, on archive.org you have the preliminary collection, you see this and think, maybe how would something like this look if you put it in Pandora instead of having like this? So here's now, I kind of imported all of this. So
I don't know if you know it, this is one of the greatest open collections of, let's say, ephemeral film from the United States, industrial ephemeral. It's a fantastic body of film.
Yeah, so this is Prelinger collected these films, mostly found film rolls that he collected from in garbage, in the garbage of film companies or private collection, people throwing it out, and then he goes there with his truck, puts them up, collects them, and he also, they're all available on archive.org for free viewing and lower quality. So is it but yeah, so it's an so this is some 6,000 films that are there, and by looking at it, through this, it's you get a different view than what you have on Agavog. You can immediately get an idea of, okay, where's the bulk of this material, or maybe I want to see something in the 60s, or then you have you get these views and you can, of course, jump to this. You get the timeline and all these informations that Sebastian was also presenting before. So all this functionality you can have for different collections of archives. But maybe so one of these edits, what Sebastian was showing with going through the subtitles. Of course, once you have time-based annotations, you can also make other forms of annotations that that are not only the subtitles or some description, but you can also think of having keywords or some other. We have other forms, but one of the things here, for example, we have are these censor certificates, which currently are a very boring film to watch, but at the same time, maybe an interesting view of the Indian film landscape, but something that is. But actually, I mean, this kind of information, there's a lot of information in these censor certificates, so we also, now people get sourcing them, but having them marked out in the films allows you also to verify that what film you have is actually what you want. But there's also one which is a starting collection of telephones that are in the people on telephones, and again, sorting this by year, you get you start with a very old film. Maybe you want to say something about telephones. This by now is already a 1 hour and 15 minute long film, but every time you show this, it grows. Every time someone finds a phone on the site, they mark it up, and so there are more and more telephones showing. But you can also imagine other things that could be tagged like this. There are many all the film songs and so on. What is interesting that in this period in India they only had one telephone. It's always this black phone, because that was the only phone that you were allowed to use. So that was a state of telephone.
तो इतनी सवेरे सवेरे
Sometimes they get this red one.
काम कर रहा हूँ जान, रोटी खानी है। चलिए आओ। तो मामला क्या है आज सवेरे सवेरे? मैंने एक गीत लिखा है जो तुमको सुनाना है। पता नहीं।
And as you are watching one of these things, you can always jump to the editor and see other annotations or things that are made here. I mean, while these annotations, these timelines are also, a good way to see or to navigate in the film, as Sebastian has shown earlier. But we also do things like cut detection. So every time there's a cut, you see this small cut here, and you can then select the cut for adding annotations or while doing edits and so on. So there are many these computational things that you can get out of the film and make them available in this for this interaction with the film that is not necessarily only viewing them but also navigating or editing or annotating, jump through them. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me say two last things before we start to, in case you have, and it doesn't have to be questions. There is before we start to talk with each other. There can be questions, of course. I mean, one thing is that on a day like this, when, as I tried to tell you, the digital equivalent of the Louvre or the Library of Alexandria was done, of course, all these projects are, even though this may look like slick online stuff, they're very precarious. I mean, with Seriously B, the idea is it must not cost something, and it should not be any work. Let the machines do the work, not let the machines sing the songs or detect the songs in the best case. With Padma, we were lucky for quite a few years because we had relatively, not generous in terms of amount of money, but in terms of conditions. We found someone in an art context who liked this and made it possible for years. And now we don't know. With Indian cinema, we're trying, and it's very hard to approach money from the Indian state. That's what we thought in the beginning. 100 years of Indian cinema celebrations in 2015. They should have some money lying around for a project like this, especially since it costs so little compared to what they do. Pointless to work with the Indian state. Now we're trying to get money or some funding from Bollywood people who have enough money lying around to maybe some of them. But it's hard. With projects like Bakma in Istanbul or these kind of Egyptian revolution projects, it's relatively evident in what sense they are precarious. They're precarious in a much more kind of elementary sense. Or even Turkish cinema, the sister project of Indian cinema that is about putting all of Turkish cinema under really difficult conditions at the moment in Turkish universities. So these are not, like many of the things on the internet, these are probably also not forever, but we have to create the conditions under which they not just stay, but transform and make possible types of production. I mean, when we think about the archive, we really don't think about the archive anymore as in terms of preservation, restoration, and all these other kind of defensive modes of dealing with something that people claim is cultural heritage or memory of I think that's all nonsense. For us, when we think about the archive, we see it as a tool for production. But our main question, our first question to the archive is, what can you do with it? What does it produce? What does it mean as a tool? It's a means of production. Now we have this, what can you do? If you can't do anything with it, you also don't preserve the heritage of Afghan cinema by putting up these newsreels and clips and stuff. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I think we've been extremely lucky in our course of doing this, that we managed to start with something like Seriously B, then to sheer luck take it to India, start another Indian project, and be able to. I think at a certain the city with the highest density of Pandora projects was Cairo, because it just happened to be 2011, and there were so many. And we were so lucky to be there twice and have enough time at the kind of the fringes of some art stuff that was going on to not just do events, but actually talk with people, sit with people, workshop with people, and see also for us to see what people were doing there. And I was super lucky to have equal amount of time in Beirut with friends and people we didn't know to think about what could be done with these archives. So I think in terms of, what's important for us, and the only way that we can do this is a bit like a specific type of modus operandi. These are not, this is not work for hire in a way. These are not institutional projects, even though institutions may appear. So we try to produce these in groups of groups. So in India we work with filmmakers and artists and lawyers and activists and a huge variety of people. And I think the only reason that works is because we're lucky to find these contexts where these work as collaborations, where people bring in something else than just their expertise, where you don't delegate the legal questions to the lawyers, because that would be insane. It wouldn't be good for you, it wouldn't be fun to the lawyers. These are not projects where we are the technical experts. I think most of even though we write software, but it's not that we don't do, these projects are not we the people who do the software. These are, and I think it's elementary for anything cultural, or anything art, or anything film or cinema that works with internet and digital technology, that the digital and the technology and the web stuff and the whatever you've seen, that this is not something that you can just delegate to people who implement this. Because if the idea isn't a shared idea, and if the implementation isn't a shared process, this is going to reproduce stupid, bureaucratic, hierarchical structures that make people extremely unhappy. So one of our main challenges and issues, but also our main goals in these processes of collaboration, is to also lower the threshold of fear of the internet a bit. This idea that technology is something that you don't understand or they understand, because neither do we understand technology, nor are these kind of people in the bracket of, but we're non-technical people. They understand it very well, and in many cases better than us. So even though, I don't know if it has become obvious from what you've seen on the screen, but these projects only work because we work very actively against separation of labor in the broadest sense. And I think it's separation of labor and specialization and institutionalization and kind of knowing what you're doing when you do it that kills projects like these. I hope they stay precarious in the sense of open-ended for a long time. That would be fantastic. So, hey.
What were the other sites in the tab that I didn't get? Oh yeah, my first question is how do we log into them? Is it the same way that the OXDB works for like the Pandora one?
I think the general, you can, these sites, even though they look very similar, they are quite different in terms of what functionality they have, but in principle the idea is these are public, free sites on the internet, you can look at stuff, but you can configure them in different ways so that, like, in principle the idea is if you want to watch stuff or read stuff, you can just do that. If you want to write, that means in the case of Padma, you can upload videos, you can just upload your own stuff. You can make annotations. If you want to write, which is add videos or edit or make annotations, you make an account. That's the idea. And on ZeroXDB, the case is a bit special because 15,000 movies, all this stuff, what about copyright? So it's a bit harder to get there. I think it's through personal contact that you can also get access to watch these.
So can you just go to the tab so I can get the names of the sites again?
Yeah, the easiest thing is you go to Pandora actually and go to the software and you go to the demo or I don't know. With Padma, we always have this problem that people ask us, what's the address of Padma? It's Padma, it's Padma. And it's infinite.ma. And with Pandora, we also have that. It's pan.do/ra. We're not so good at...
Thank you. Thank you.
I had a question about this map function you have in the OXDB website. How do you create this? Like, does it happen automatically? Does it take from the subtitles the name of the streets, for example, and then locate it on the map? Or do you also do it manually, like, for example, a specific scene was shot on this specific road, and you actually put it on the map?
Let's say in the case of ZeroXDB, it's kind of semi-automatic. The text is already in the subtitles, you just have to add it to the Google map, but that's, in most of the cases, you just type it, you see it's the right thing, done. With Parma, and we could show you examples for that, of course. What people do is, like, there's a street scene in a film. We actually follow a vendor as he kind of walks or bicycles from one place in the city to another, and there you can precisely map out the kind of the trajectory that a person does to the city. So you can in these cases, it's, of course, it's a lot of work to do this properly, but for some of the films, this has been done. Of course, you have to also know the city quite well to do this type of work. If I give you cinema set in Athens, and your task is to find the proper locations, it's quite a bit of work, especially since these places change over time. But in Parma, there's some effort in also in Indian cinema to a certain degree to map things very precisely in the city of Bombay.
Also, like you made an example, you showed like a clip from an Indian or Afghan film, and there was a description on the side, and it said, for example, now she sings a folk song. Do you write all these things manually, like research what she's doing and write it?
Yes, so in this particular case, it's even more work. Like it means after digitizing the films to find some people who've been involved in making this thing, to sit down with them, to watch it, to make an interview, to record that, and to take that interview and actually this is all time-based annotation. So that if you find something, you also find the clip. You don't just find and then to attach it to the proper point in the film. This is all. I don't know how many people have worked on Padma over the years, or in Indian cinema over the 50, 100, 150. Don't know.
But here, I mean, if you see that there are multiple people that work on this one big multiple people made annotation. I don't even see them.
That's a position at the moment. So 4 people annotated this.
But this is just. So I think also different films are annotated with different density, but on Padma there is quite a lot of material where a lot of the non-English spoken text is also translated to English. So someone sat down, wrote down the original, and then someone else translated it. Usually, there's a lot of manual work that went into working with these things. Sometimes this is part of the process. So filmmakers anyway did this when they did the documentary. They anyway had it, these texts already because they needed that to make their film. Sometimes this was done specifically for this.
But you always had to contact people that were involved in the making of the film, right?
Or who knows stuff about it, who kind of, sometimes we have to contact people, in the case of Padma and Indian cinema, sometimes the first task is to contact people who understand the languages spoken and are able to translate them to.
But on on the films, there's also sometimes we have really long essays basically written over the entire film, from scenes, like a scene by scene analysis of the film, with references to other things. This can, again, sometimes this is based on existing work that was done somewhere else, and sometimes it's people are doing this now that they have access to the films. Sometimes there are interviews with the directors or with other people involved, and that are then, as they watch the film, put in there.
But this is not canonical. This is not like Wikipedia, where you have one version of these are the annotations of your film. This is This is layers of annotation. If you want to add your own, they're there as well. It's not about creating a canonical version of annotation for a film that is then finished. It's a process where people add their things.
And are these films downloadable from these websites?
Yeah, it depends on copyright. We think about software often, and we write software sometimes, and we try to make it as easy as possible to get this stuff, also to get it automatically. Like sometimes you want 500 films and you don't want to click 500 times, so you can automate all these processes also. But depending on copyright situation, on Indian cinema, everything is about copyright. You just click download and you download it. If you want, you can download a clip. You just, if this is a scene that interests you, you can just download a section of that video.
Really maxing out the bandwidth. But yeah, you can also just get this part of the.
And you can download the annotations, you can export the annotations. Sometimes filmmakers say that wouldn't it be cool if I could export my annotations into Final Cut or something. You can do that as well. Or import from.
Yes, I mean the entire. I mean also not only in this. Importing, exporting, but generally these websites have a very extendable API that can be used to automate many things. So you can also automatically create annotations or import them from existing. So a lot of times, if it's already someone else made a log sheet with time codes and so, then this is something that we not sit on the side and manually enter it, then have a script to it. But exporting and things like that.
API basically means all the stuff that I can do as a human can I also do it with a machine. Can also do it automatically. And on all these websites, everything you can do as a human by clicking a mouse or typing some stuff, you can automate. So I think it's super important, and people often don't realize that they're dearest users of sometimes machines and not humans. Oh, I mean, it's humans, but humans who want to do a lot of things and don't want to do the boring stuff of doing the same thing 100 times.
So basically, I'm VJing in a club, and I decided, okay, tonight it's about the history of the development of telephones. So I just enter telephone into it, and I go down to have breakfast. When I come back, already the finished compilation of the sections of the films with the telephones has been created and has downloaded itself, right?
In principle, yes. You have to write for that, to write a machine that does that. It's maybe 15 to 20 lines of code, maybe. But yeah, that's a breakfast type of task. So, yeah.
Of course, I mean the telephone example only works with, because someone has sat down and marked out scenes with telephone.
Excuse me, please. And this is text. This is subtitles-based recognition, right? It's not image-based yet.
Yeah. So this is the telephone sections are actually keyword-based. So if you go to you see here there's a keyword. So in this film there are 3 telephone scenes that are marked out, and so these are. By looking at the film and saying, okay, here's a telephone, so you say, oh, telephone.
Subtitles, right?
This is not a subtitles, but using the subtitles is a good way to find scenes with the telephone. When you search for hello, you find many places where people pick up the phone and say hello. So you could make it, so if you want to, so in the subtitles there is no clear mention of phone is ringing, that sometimes happens, ring in brackets or something, but that's usually not the case if it's for most subtitles. So you have to.
But ideally, if labor wasn't it's way too much work to do this for 36,000 movies that don't even exist. But like ideally, this would be a desk and a flower vase or something, and a chair, and a window, and there was a book and a ring and nail polish and black hair. Ideally, of course, that would. I mean, ideally, it's just like in principle that would mean that's what you would do. You would annotate film.